Okie dokie. So this is our second Brightspace breakthrough, and this is about H5P. And for the Moodle goers, we used to have H5P, and now we have it in Brightspace, and it looks pretty much the same. Currently working on documentation for adding an activity, and the interface with the Brightspace is pretty much exactly picture for picture, slot for slot, like it was on Moodle. So if you're familiar with the Moodle version, you're good with this one. But I'm going to go into a course because H5P is integrated with your courses, and you could do it in two ways. You could do it either through the content tool with existing activities, or you can do it still in the content tool, but like in any sort of text box. You could do an insert stuff, and then H5P is there as well. So the benefit of existing activities is that when you click on a module and then you use the existing activities button, you'll see H5P in this list right around the middle. It's in alphabetical order. And you'll just open it up and it brings up the add an activity window, and you can go from here. And I think this is a little more navigable than the one in text boxes, just because you can adjust this, make it a little bigger if you need to, and sometimes you will depending on whatever you need to use. You could even move it around, make it larger. And here you could also organize your folders if you want to put your activities into folders, either based on course or based on like chapter, just for, when you transfer your content to the next semester, might be good to have these folders. And then, of course, you could add your content just like you did in Moodle. So there's a little more organization capabilities here, but otherwise it's about the same. You could also see over here on the right, you have your name, and it's associated with your Marywood account. And I believe you can sign in to H5P's website and view your content there as well, because you do have an account. And when you use H5P for the first time in here, I think it just automatically makes it. So it should be the same, like LDAP stuff that you use for your portal.
Okay.
So it should be about the same, which is good. In case we ever move off of Brightspace, you should still have that content. But we won't talk about that right now.
Oh no, I hope not.
Right? We're good here for now. But yeah, I made a folder here. That's what this private folder is. It's just for you. And you can edit them at any time, and then you could also move them, delete them. There is an option to share with the organization, but for right now, we're just going to talk about working within your own course. So I'm going to click into a folder. You could see that you could also add subfolders within folders, and there is a breadcrumb trail at the top here. So if you accidentally clicked into a folder, you could always click My Content here, or even over here, and it brings you back to the landing page. So I'm going to click on a folder, and then we're going to click Add Content. So just like with Moodle, it has a bit of a lag, and it could take a little bit to load, but this is pretty much exactly the same as it was before. You can search for your content types up here. So if you're not sure what you're really looking for, but maybe it has the word video in it, you can type that in, and you'll see all the content types that have to do with videos. You could also sort it by popular first, newest first, A to Z, and I believe there's about 35 different activities, and they're all ranging in ease of use and ease of setup. Some of them are kind of difficult to set up on their own. Interactive video is definitely the most popular because you could upload your own video. So I guess theoretically you could upload your Zoom recordings and then put little questions in between if you wanted to do that. Good way to keep attention going. Course presentation with interactive slides, that's another popular one. These ones with the green icons mean that they are multiplayer sort of activities. And I think this would be good to use in like a text box sort of situation. So I'll show like what the text box version of H5P looks like. But if you wanted to bring this up during class, or if you have a Zoom online class, you could bring this up during class and have everyone access it from their computers and join. It's basically polls. So kind of like poll everywhere. I think it's kind of like that, but not within a PowerPoint or anything like that, just here on H5P. We also have multiple choice questions. You could actually do quizzes in here, but H5P kind of totes themselves as like informal sort of assessment. If you want to go that route, we will look at how to assess these or connect them to the gradebook or even disconnect them if you don't want to, because it is kind of automatic. And if you don't want to grade them or have them in the gradebook at all, it's super simple to just disconnect them. So I think what I'm going to do first is an interactive video just to show you what the different screens look like. And once you click on something and actually decide which activity you want to do, it shows up at the top here with a collapsed list. So if you wanted to change it to something else, you just click on that list again and it opens up the same page. One thing I didn't mention is that there's a details button next to every single one of these. And if you click on details, you can see like a content demo. So it actually gives you a sample to go through on your own. So you can kind of get the student perspective of how they would go through it. You also see some little pictures just so you can see what it would kind of look like. You can adjust like the text boxes of your questions across the videos. And this is what the questions kind of look like when you set them up. You can also go down and click use if you want to use it right from here. So you did the content demo, you like it, you click use, and it brings you back to the same page. And if you wanted to actually go back and do the tutorial, it's right here for you, and the example is here as well. So if you're ever stuck, it's kind of nice to just go over to tutorial and it'll open up a brand new tab and tell you, hey, here's how it works. So if you have any questions about how to do something, of course I could try my best to help, but they also have a nice little help support area. So we can scroll right on down, and interactive video has its own set of steps, obviously, but each activity has a range of the amount of steps that they can have. This one happens to have 3 steps. And you can look out for these little red asterisks for the required things. So obviously you need a title. So for the title, maybe I'll do something like, since we're going with a writing theme, just put in a title, Writing Exploration. This is what will show on Brightspace. And then when we scroll down to step number 1, it says add a video. So it says to click below to add a video. You kind of just follow the prompts to add these different activities. So you could add a video link. So from YouTube, you could actually use those. You could also upload your video. So maybe something short like a nice little 5 to 10 minute Zoom recording. I'm not sure how it would work with an hour long. So if you do try it, let me know so I know how to tell other people. It's very rare that I actually have hour-long Zoom recordings, so I could probably put this in there, see what happens. But when you click add a video, you can upload here or enter your video URL right here. So you could just grab that YouTube link and paste it in. So let me, on my other screen, just grab one real quick. Maybe nothing too long. Yeah, that sounds good. Something with colleague, even though I said writing. That sounds good. So I'm going to hop right back over here, put in my little link, and click insert. So now we have our YouTube here. We can look at the copyright as well. Mine is from a Lucian, so there might be some copyright involved, but we're not going to publish this. You could also look out for these different sections that have mini arrows next to them. So it says interactive video, and if I click on this, I can actually set that title. It is automatically taking it from the title at the top, but you could change it if you want to. And you can hide the title on the video start screen. So when they click on this link from Brightspace, you can hide the title again if you don't want it to be there. You can give a short description. So before the video starts, you could have a little description over it. And then you could also have an image displayed before the video starts playing if you want to get that like granular about it. So these are just some options. You don't have to even interact with them. We also have subtitles. So if you had a subtitle text track for like a lecture that you've done and you did some subtitles for it, you can upload those, which is really great. You can add your own tracks here. Yes, I would like to remove that. So if you click on, again, the little arrows, they're kind of indicative of more options. You can upload your own tracks, which are web VTT files. And that's mainly for your own like videos of yourself that you've created. YouTube usually has its own built-in subtitles, but this is good to know for your own personal stuff. And right below this next step area, we also have behavioral settings and text overrides. So you don't even really need to do anything with these, but if you wanted to start your video at a certain spot instead of playing the whole thing, this might be good if you wanted to like skip the intro and go straight to the meat of the video. You can give it a time code and it gives you the format. You could also start playing the video automatically, so there's no play button involved. So that's an option. You can loop it if you really want to. There's a show solution button that can show up for the questions in the interactive video. So you can override that and just say it's disabled so it doesn't come up if you don't want it to. The retry button is also the same sort of option. You can have a bookmarks menu open on startup, but it's not available on iPads. So like all this stuff is kind of just very granular. And if you really want to dig down and kind of restrict your video, this is how you do it. You can also deactivate sound too. I don't know if that's something you'd want to do, but it's definitely an option. And then the text overrides is more of that sort of, translations and things like that. Before I go on to the stuff at the very bottom, I just want to go on to the next step. And you could either do it here with this button, or you can scroll up to the top and hit the next tab, whatever you're more comfortable with. So it's bringing up this video. And along the top, because this is an interactive video, we have interactions we can add. So we have tons. We have labels and text and tables you could even put on there. It does walk you through it just a little bit. So you just drag an element from that blue toolbar down to the video at the time that you want it to show up. And it will tell you that when you use it for the first time. You can resize them like we saw in the pictures. And then it also tells you have bookmarks as well. Though it is kind of frustrating that it keeps shoving me to the bottom when I'm done with a menu. But, we deal with it. So once you are done with everything, you click Save and View, and you can watch through the whole video. But as you add different interactions, you can kind of use this button at the bottom to scan through your video, get to the right points. And as you add interactions, it adds like little dots to tell you where they appear. And then the star indicates that it's done, and there's a submit screen there as well. So if you do have questions in here, they can count towards like a gradable item if you want them to. And in just a minute, I'll show you where that is like a setting on this H5P screen. So as you go through and you add these different things, like maybe we'll add a true/false question, you can place the little icon anywhere on the screen. So it could be out of the way of the main like image, which is probably a good idea here. And then as soon as you place it, it tells you which display time it's actually coming up at. And usually that's fine. It's very, very specific. You can pause it as well. So if you need a full score from all of your questions for them to pass the H5P activity, then you do want to pause it. So I usually do anyway, just because then there's not so much going on. But the pause video, you could have it display as a button or a poster. I think the poster is a lot bigger. The button you do have to click on, but the poster just kind of shows up. I kind of like the poster in some cases. The button is good if you have like a video where obviously the visuals are very important to what you're trying to get at. The poster is good if you're really just going for a content assessment and it's just coming up over the video, doesn't really matter. You're mostly listening to the audio to answer the question. But then you give it a title. So maybe we'll say, it doesn't have to be the actual question. It's just, could be question 1. And then my question for this true/false, it does give me a little rich text editor. So you get your bold, italics, subscript, superscript, and you can align it in different ways. But I think for this one, I'll say something very simple, since this is true/false. So the question in this case is just a statement on my end, and the correct answer is false. It is not purple, though I guess technically it could be. Could be at night. So this is very confusing. Under behavioral settings, you have the same stuff that you do for the overall, but it does show up again. You can have it automatically check the answer, but accessibility suffers from that. So there are little things you do want to keep an eye out on in these descriptions. You can give feedback on correct and wrong answers. So whenever they click something, if it's like wrong, you could say, oh, try again, or remember what they said in this part of the video, and then maybe that'll help them get the right answer. I'll close that up. And then once we're done here, just click done, and our video has a little true or false question on the left side. So maybe that's not the best place for me to have put it, so I could just kind of move it around, make it bigger if I want to. It does give me more options the bigger it gets. Like I got the check mark here, and the text is now across instead of stacked on top of each other. And then I can either edit it, or I could copy it and make it again. And if you have multiple questions or items in the same like set of seconds, you can choose which ones are in the front, which ones are in the back, kind of like a PowerPoint slide. So you could keep those in mind too. And then as you look, you'll see the little black dot indicates we have an interaction here. And if that's the only interaction I'm going to add, then I can just go right on down to my next step, which is the summary task. And it just is a list of statements for the summary. So it's just different statements about the video, I would say. So Janine, do you usually use the statements for like just organizing your thoughts about the video, or just kind of like, thanks for finishing it?
Yeah, I actually usually don't even use them.
Yeah.
I should.
Well, I know in Moodle, like, people didn't really use them either. I'm trying to remember what a use case would have been for them, because it just says the first statement is correct. So I think students can like click on them at the end.
Right.
So if you gave like 2 truths and a lie or something, except it'd be 2 lies and a truth about the video, a final assessment, as it were.
So I do have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
About the show solution and retry button. So is it set up to default that they can see the solution and retry it?
Let's see. So that was in the beginning, right?
Yeah, because looking at the menu, because the option is to override show solution button, and then the description, it kind of does, and you have the option of enabled or disabled. It doesn't. So I'm assuming if you want to override the button, it means it's actually showing that it is. So you'd want to enable the override for them not to be able to see it.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, it is worded a little confusingly. I did notice just now as you were saying that this behavioral settings is for like the overall activity, which maybe you already figured out. And then the behavioral settings for each question, you can also determine per question if you want them to have the show solution button or the retry button. So this is for all of it, like the entire activity. Or if you don't want to even touch these, you could do it per question as well. Okay. So this option determines if the show solution button will be shown for all questions, disabled for all, or configured for each question. So it seems like if we click disabled, it would be disabled for all questions because it uses that text there, though it is a little confusing. So let me say disabled, and then we'll see if it comes up. Same with this, but that's a great question. So this would be our overall, since it's below the steps, and then within our interactions, we can have the behavioral settings per question as well.
Gotcha.
All right, any other questions so far?
Nope.
All right. It looks like you can get rid of the summary task if you really don't want it. So I don't want it, we're getting rid of it. But it does come up as default. And then you could give a score range based on how many questions you have, and then feedback for what they would get. And you can also like add up to, 0 to 33, 33 to 66, up and up. You can do whatever you like there. And you can display at a certain number of seconds before the end. It's all just kind of like cosmetic and how you want to stagger it, really.
Right.
So now I do want to mention these different little options before we actually insert this video. So I think all of these are pretty much checked by default, which is why I want to bring them up. This part isn't really too important, but the part that I do want to bring up is this LTI settings, because you can choose when to send the scores to Brightspace if you want to actually have these graded in the gradebook. So you can choose to not send a score at all, which is good to set at the beginning if that's what you don't want to do, because then you don't have to go back and just, delete grades. Right. There's also the first attempt. So the first time they do it, that's the grade that's going in, the last attempt, or the best one. I think last attempt is the one that's picked by default, but which makes sense because usually the students will do it until they get it right. So then the last attempt would be, probably their highest. But best attempt is an option, as well as do not send at all. There's also this publish area. Protected means that it can be inserted into Brightspace. Unpublished means that you're still working on it. So you could make this unpublished and still be working on it, but you know, kind of like you're saving it essentially without actually publishing it forward.
Right.
So technically you could just hide this activity from students and leave this at protected if you don't want to have to remember to go back in here. And then public, they can grab a link, and by they I mean you, or you know, even the student. If you want to share it with another teacher, you can make it public, give them the link to it, and they could use it.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a nice way to share content with others, though you can share with collaborators. So you could add people, and they are Marywood people. So if you start typing in names, so Janine comes up, I could share this with someone else, and then they could edit the content as well.
Right.
There is an option. Maybe I'm just missing it. I think this was it though, the last attempt or do not send score. But even if you do choose something here, like any of the attempts gives them a grade to the LMS and you end up not wanting to use that, we can definitely separate that. And that's what I'll show you in just a few minutes. But before we go on, do you have any questions about anything?
Nope. I'm interested in seeing how, because you can also, like in Brightspace, in the setup with graded items or not graded items, you can just keep it as a non-graded item, so it doesn't get into your gradebook, which is what I did, because I didn't know you could really do this part. But then how, because I would still want to see how individual students answered questions. How can I see that information and not just like a score? Is that possible?
Right. Well, let's take a look. So I'm going to save and insert this. And now we have it here, external learning tool. You just click on it, tell your students to click on it, and it'll load up right here in the page. At least it should. There it is. Again, take some time. We have lag. But this looks a bit different than your normal YouTube video. YouTube videos that you put in Brightspace kind of look like this anyway, but you could tell this is different because it has the play button that looks different, the dot for the interaction, and the star as well. So you can edit it up here at any time if you need to, but then if you keep scrolling down, you can tell in the activity details here that it does have a grade item because it lists something under assessment. So if you really didn't want there to be a grade item for this, you can just click on that assessment and then say no grade, and then it just won't have a grade item. Or if you wanted it to be considered something else in your grade book, because sometimes you can make grade items before you associate them with anything, you could still do that as well. You could just select which other grade item you want it to connect to, and then click save, and it'll be good. So I will click save on that. I'm going to go in and view it as my student in this course, just to show you what it looks like. It should look fairly the same, just without the edit button. But I'm going to use the student, click yes, and then content. All right, so I could see this video. I give it a click. It'll take some time, but here it is. So I'm going to just kind of drag it over to my interaction just because I want to see it come up. So I did have it pause the video, so it did that for me. I'll give an answer to my question here, and then click check, and it says I got the points right. Otherwise, it would say I did not. And I don't see an option to view the solution or retry it at all, though I did get it right, so why would I retry it? But I don't see those buttons come up anyway, which is good. Then I'll scroll off to the bottom, or the end rather, and see what happens here. Oops, too far. Because I don't think I put any summaries here, but yeah, it shows you the summary of your scores, and then you could submit the answers. So I'll submit that. The question was submitted. I got a score of 1, and that is great. So now as an instructor, I want to go in and see if I could see what each student said. So now I'm going to go back to my instructor view, go back to content, and I know it was here. I don't think I can look in this way to do it, but I'll click on the actual topic and see if it shows me anything different. So you've done this before, Janina. It didn't show you anything like who got what or answered what? Yeah, it's funny that it tells me I didn't complete it as a student, even though I did and got a grade on it. So I guess look out for that as well. I'm not sure how it's supposed to talk to the completion summary, but at least it does give them a grade for that. Let's see, if I edit it, I wonder if it'll show me anything. I didn't see anything in the actual like build-up of the H5P activity to actually see student results. And I wonder if that's because it's so, what's it called? It's like an informal assessment. Maybe they're just like, if they complete the video, then they're good. You know what I mean? But I will look into that for sure. Because we did just get this, so I'm still learning how it connects to Brightspace. So I will definitely look that up. So view student answers. Yeah, okay. So then just as a sort of continuation of that conversation, I want to go over to the gradebook. And I know that it gave them a 10 out of 10 because I saw that here in the completion, but I just want to scroll over to my writing exploration and I got 10 out of 10. That student got 10 out of 10. So you can see it comes up, it grades it automatically. And if you didn't want it to grade it at all, you could just remove that grade item from the actual content tool or even beforehand in H5P when you're making it up.
Right.
So the other way I want to show just how to get to H5P is through any sort of text box. So sometimes people might create a file and do it that way with like the templates and then you add H5P in. But I think you could also do it here in the descriptions. So if you wanted them to go through something just informally here, I think you could do that. So you can click on this Insert Stuff button, and it should be right towards the top. And then it does look exactly the same. So I am interested, though, to see if it would add something to the gradebook, even if it's not an activity. My thoughts are no, but I'm curious, so I'm going to do it really quick. Is there a different type you would like to see other than interactive video since you've done that before? Yeah, see that drag and drop.
Yeah. The what was it, the interactive presentation?
Oh yeah, let's see what that looks like.
Yeah. Course presentation, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So I wonder if you just start filling stuff out and it's kind of like a free form PowerPoint.
Right.
Let me see an example.
Like I wouldn't want, I guess. I'd want.
Right?
I would assume you pull up yours and you can add it similar to the video.
That's what I thought too. From this, it's looking like, you could put a picture up in the background, and instead of an interactive video, it's more like stagnant, I guess. And then you could jump to different slides. That is interesting. But yeah, I don't see anything to upload, but let's just try putting in a title. And we can add text, we can add a link. Doesn't look like we can add a presentation from there though. Oops. Let's see. Delete that, yep. You could add a video. So I guess you could just add multiple videos if you really felt like it. But if you really want to go in depth into an interactive video, I would definitely go with that type instead. You could do fill in the blanks though. So you could probably do different slides with fill in the blanks. Single choice, multiple choice, true, false. So it kind of just looks like the video, but with pictures instead.
Okay.
I kind of wish you'd be able to upload a file though. Oh, yeah. You could add an interactive video though, so it's very meta. All right. Yeah, I feel like it's hiding it from me. Like, can I add something? I guess not. Yeah, I would say this is more like an interactive, like slideshow of pictures, and then you could put stuff on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let me see if I could real quick maybe just add from my folder and just add this again because I knew it had an accessible thing, a gradable thing. So I'll insert my existing activity. It adds it like it did before. And I'll just click insert. Okay, click update. And there it is. I'm willing to bet that it didn't add another grade item just because it's not an actual activity.
Right.
So if you want to grade it, I would recommend doing existing activities and then H5P. If you just want to like show them something, so if you want to put up like a little intro video but put questions in between it, that would be great for like descriptions or in the upload, create a file area. And you could just do multiple there if you really felt like it. But do you have any other questions about anything with this?
Nope.
All right. Yeah, I feel like it's a pretty cool little tool to kind of engage students with your course content instead of just watching a video.
Right.
But there is a lot to do with it. So if you ever need any sort of help with any of the activities, we could definitely work through it together. And I can assemble some sort of like H5P support page knowledge base of sorts because they know their product the best. But yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's a good time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a learning curve with some of it.
Exactly. Yeah, some of them are a little ambitious.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop the recording.